tell me you killed the bastard. Drove your staff into his wretched skull, slid a dagger in his gut. Not that he'd die from that. Works on mortals, though.
I've nothing to report, Odysseus. Not yet.
Well, you'll get him next time, I reckon.
Death to Kronos, sir.
He'll get his. The good witch put you to the test out there, did she? Quite an intensive teaching style, I always thought. She expects a lot from you, but that's just what happens when you've such potential.
Then she must be disappointed with my results, although she's careful not to show it. Same as you, Odysseus.
Come, I know how dispiriting it is to chart one's course only to lose one's way. We rarely get where we must go the fastest way we can. Nemesis has been in an especially foul mood of late. Anything I should know about?
I was going to ask you the same. She sought my task, but that's nothing new. Though she's been clashing with Headmistress more and more.
Shame it's been this way. Personally, I'd rather have divine retribution with me than against. I reckon you can't just smooth things over with her, can you?
I have my doubts. Hey, Odysseus. Got you something here I wanted you to have. For always keeping an eye out.
Goddess, your presence alone is all I could ask. Though if you're in a giving mood, then perhaps you'll accept a small gift from me in turn?
Your trusty knucklebones. Thank you.
The good witch there noted you were able to vanquish her in a full-on contest. Impressive stuff. You get much farther?
I did. Down to the chambers near the bottom of the sea. Strange music echoing all through the place. I wasn't prepared.
Strange music, huh? Reminds me of when... Oh, I'll spare the tales for another time. You've enough on your mind, I can tell.
How's life of late down at the bottom of the sea? All sorts of nastiness lurking there, that the reports make clear. I wager you've seen some things.
You'd win that wager handily. The worst of them has to be the sea monstrous called Scylla and a siren friends. They have this ridiculous act.
What, Scylla's still around? The sirens, no less? It's a wonder you made it back. Well, please tell me you didn't listen to a word they sang.
Oh, I heard an earful.
So, there's a bit of a new wrinkle in our plans. We've been able to verify some of the details that Master Hermes suggested to you about what's brewing on the surface.
Please tell me what you may. And if you think it wise for me to deviate from my objective to address whatever's going on up there.
The forces of Kronos gather to sail on Olympus through a channel cut across the land. You're poised to disrupt the enemy ranks from within. Aid Olympus, and your chances against Kronos may improve.
The warded pathway leading up should drop me right into the heart of our foe's forward garrison. It seems so reckless. Why not send Nemesis to the surface in my stead? Even if I undo the ward sealing the path, I don't know that I'll last long up there.
The matter on Olympus isn't as personal for Nemesis as it is for you. And she hasn't been especially receptive to suggestion recently.
No, I suppose not.
See Charon's latest haul, Goddess? Shipment by the riverside. All yours. And we're watching the rivers, making certain this won't be the last.
Lord Charon risks aiding my efforts in such a direct way. Are we able to compensate him at all?
Aye, with what gold we've gathered recently. He really means to melt down every last one of those Kronos coins we can get our hands on.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Got a most troubling report. A sighting in the pathways on the outskirts of Erebus. Did our eyes out there see true?
If it's Kronos that they saw, then yes. Now at least I know what he looks like. But he knows me in turn. Why do you think he let me go? Have we been compromised?
No one gets into the crossroads whom we don't permit, or can even know we're here. Not even him. So he's sniffing around? Fine. He wastes his time whilst you get closer to your mark.
Is he even capable of wasting time?
A word of caution, Goddess, in regard to an impediment you may confront when finally you reach the far end of the morning fields. Reports suggest it's some sort of infernal beast. A big one. Our shades had to stay very far away.
I can corroborate our Shade's reports, and add that this infernal beast is none other than Cerberus, my father's household pet, acting on instinct and pure rage.
I feared as much, for they said the beast had several fire-spitting maws. I don't suppose he recognized you after all this time and let you pass? Ah, you made it to the morning fields. Good. Tartarus is not too far behind. Directly underneath, in fact, but the ingress is a bit of a walk from your initial drop.
A bit of a walk, fraught with soul-devouring demons and other life-hating fiends. Too powerful to be imprisoned, so they're free to wander there, something like that.
Ah, we mortals just love the fields, Goddess. A place to rid oneself of misery, or drown in it. A perfect spot for demons, only some of which shall leave you be.
Hey, where'd Hecuba and Gali scamper off to? I'd ask Headmistress, but she doesn't like it when I show even the slightest concern for her familiars. They're fine, Melinoi.
Well, they probably are fine. Each on a little scouting expedition at my own behest, under the auspices of the Good Witch, of course. The Hound goes one way, the Polecat another.
Those little scouting expeditions always seem to last a while. I'll have to keep an eye out for them then.
Where they're going, they should appreciate seeing
All
a
grown
friendly
up.
face. You found him, Goddess. Your look says it all, along with my reports. Gave him something to remember you by, I reckon, even if the battle didn't go your way.
Kronos was exactly where we expected, but I could not foresee his every technique, and my ability to withstand his magic went only so far.
Well, fortunately for you, the old are often rather slow to learn. You run into him a few more times like that, you'll soon know every trick he's got. Though, do be very careful out there, So Doom has come to stay with us a bit. My last and only other brush with him did not resolve particularly well, so I'll just keep my distance if that's quite all right.
All children of Nyx are welcome in these crossroads, though I think Lord Moros wishes to keep his distance too.
The Good Witch always figured you would make your way up to the mortal realm. Once you were ready and the situation called for it. Well done.
She warded the pathway there, until such time as I had the means to pass through. The climate on the surface is another matter.
Your underworld birthright stuff getting in the way? A curse, not just a blessing, it would seem. Well, if your witchery got you this far, surely it can aid with this predicament.
That's the plan.
So how has Nemesis been faring out there? Taking matters into her very capable hands. Not making too much grief for you, I hope.
So you know already. And Headmistress must too. Nemesis is being Nemesis. Discovering firsthand our task is not as simple as it seems.
Say no more then. Though if she becomes too intent on impeding your results over achieving her own, we'll step in.
It won't come to that.
The tactician brings ill tidings with an optimistic bent. Fine. And what news from the men of the Isles, if any yet survive?
According to my confidants, they've all sworn in with Kronos, I'm afraid. Mortals, they often want whatever they don't have. Another golden age in this case. The promise of one.
'Tis a lie that spares their betrayal rather than a promise. They shall perish then, by the wrath of the gods.
And then their wretched souls shall hound us with renewed vengefulness. I've witnessed endless wars before, madam. So have you gods. How can we stop this?
We cannot. Melinoi, however. Certainly you can, correct?
I can and shall.
How was the surface? Still warm and welcoming, I reckon. You're to be commended for even setting foot up there.
It was dreadful. The city of Aphira is completely overrun, and there's a blind Cyclops making sure no one gets out.
Well, that all sounds entirely unfortunate. Blind Cyclops, huh? I must be Polyphemus. Given that scrape myself way back. He's still going on about eating people.
I encountered mighty Heracles on the surface. No mistaking him. Though I thought he was dead. He seemed very much alive. On the outside, anyway. And still in service to the gods.
The great Heracles. That's a complicated one. Part man, part god, part monster too, perhaps. Rules of death don't quite apply to him. What did he want? He give you any trouble?
He was quite brusque. Told me to stay out of his way. Sounds like he has a task of his own. Maybe Olympus isn't counting on me to succeed.
Don't take it personally. You have wise relatives and ruthless ones. They may not like their odds hinging on any one individual. And do watch yourself with Heracles,
You've known Headmistress quite a while, haven't you? Where did you meet? I always wanted to ask.
Well, all I can say is that I was alone. At the end of one life and the start of another. Lost. She appeared before me then in all her splendor, and she revealed to me a path I hadn't seen.
That all sounds very figurative. Were you already dead?
I was. She told me she could grant me a new life. She needed a tactician knowledgeable of the surface. I thought, who am I to turn a goddess down? I followed her. It's been a while now.
Found yourself a phantom lair in the fields, if my shades down there are still to be believed. Blood-sucking bastards. The phantoms, not the shades.
Don't such creatures usually stalk the surface in their search of living prey? They must go rather hungry in the underworld.
Better that than burn under the break of day, or so they figure, probably. Well, you know what they're after next you meet again.
With your Olympus-dwelling relatives assisting you, I've half a mind to ask you to let them know I'm on your side, except not all of them love me.
What? But you're the great tactician, Odysseus. Even the gods were impressed with your machinations in your glory days.
Lady Athena and others favored me, it's true, but your Uncle Poseidon, well, I got on his bad side, I believe. Maybe he's let it go after all this time, but that's a risk I'm not prepared to take. So keep quiet about me, would you?
I hear you. You ever seen Hypno so much as shift in his sleep, Odd? I know he's been through a lot, but still.
Can't say I have. Been just that way from the night the good witch got him. The snoring I became accustomed to eventually.
Think he's ever going to wake? None of the incantations we've tried have had any effect.
Good, you're back. According to reports, Ares flew off toward the Rift of Thessaly on an intercept course with the fleet. Except I don't think that she's headed there to help. Not you, at least.
These reports aren't of much benefit to me after the fact. But at least I can confirm they're accurate. How preposterous that we cannot rid ourselves of her.
All we can do is work with what we've got. I apologize that we could not forewarn you on this one. We'll continue investigating her motives and accomplices. Your little garden there has cheered this old place up a bit, Goddess. In trying times, such simple pleasures often first to fade. Precisely when they're needed most.
Thank you, and pleased to hear it, great tactician. Though I'd not expected a mere flower patch to leave such an impression on someone like you.
Come now, all I do is pay attention to details. Victory comes to those whose hearts are predisposed. I mean, look at us. Our spirits are quite literally all we have. And now flowers. How was it sailing through the Rift of Thessaly, Goddess? Sometimes I long for my past days and nights at sea. Probably since I've forgotten just how miserable it was.
I feel I could remind you at this point. Kronos has this vast fleet of ships drawn from the very depths, drowned crews and all. I had to commandeer whichever craft I could.
A proper nautical experience then, fraught with danger, mystery. I feel a little envious of those drowned crews. After I died, I thought my sailing days were done.
Well, Kronos could probably use more sailors after what I did to them.
Put in a good word for me, would you?
How did you manage it, Odysseus? Back when you had the outcome of a full-scale war riding on you, then a treacherous sea journey, all with only one life to live. Or so then you thought.
For certain, the one life to live bit instilled in me the will to survive. Most mortals cling to life, but I was better than most at rejecting my doubts. And when my plans all fell apart, I improvised.
Your plans fell apart. How did you avoid becoming distraught? Keep all your doubts at bay in the face of failure?
It's that I always relished finding a way out, no matter what I'd gotten myself into. Treating my predicaments as mazes to be navigated, puzzles to be solved.
But at times there are impasses, outcomes that simply cannot be achieved.
Nay, Goddess. Not if you ask me. You asked before about how I managed it. The pressure to always prevail through what, in retrospect, were many terribly exciting scenarios, all whilst bearing the burden of so many others' expectations and my own.
You said you always believed there was a solution, a positive outcome that could be discovered and achieved. I've been thinking about that.
Good. But it occurred to me there's something else. It was love that drove me on. The Great War that earned me my place in Elysium. I wanted desperately not to go. To stay with my wife and then newborn son.
You were left with no choice but to fight. So you held to hope that someday you'd see your family again. I must admit, on some occasion all the tales you told about the sea monster Charybdis felt almost beyond belief. Now having faced the blasted thing, I feel you sold it short.
What, faced Charybdis? Oh, Goddess, I'd seen reports about some sort of whirlpool in Poseidon's Rift, and now my fears confirmed. At least it didn't swallow you outright.
Any tips on how to deal with it?
Avoid it at all costs. I heard your efforts to bring Cerberus back to his senses were successful. At least temporarily, Goddess. He bounded off to Tartarus only to be cast out into the fields again.
That's what I gathered, yes. In Tartarus he seeks his master, my father, whom I happened upon bound in chains. Kronos is torturing them, mocking them.
Kronos is using them to get at you, instill in you emotions that compel you to throw caution to the wind. Remember, wars are won and lost in hearts and minds.
Did you not act on your emotions in your mortal days?
You got him, didn't you? Killed the bastard for one night at least. The first report I heard I scarce believed, but by the third or fourth I'd come around. Well done, Goddess.
Thanks, Odd. Though I'd not be surprised if our reports already say he's returned. But I got what I needed for now. And a little bit of payback, I suppose.
Aye, and he'll be sore about it, I expect. But even though we're not there yet, we needed this, I think. You needed this. On to the next phase, then?
During a recent voyage, I found Circe the Enchantress on her little isle, evidently safe from all the turmoil at sea. Don't you two know each other fairly well?
In life and death, we can but strive to know each other well, Goddess. Though I knew Circe, just a bit, at least. As casual acquaintances is all. Why do you ask?
Oh, just in case you wanted me to tell her anything when next we met, as she may be providing some assistance when I navigate the Rift of Thessaly.
No need to tell her anything. Best keep your focus on the task at hand. Oh, hail, Goddess. I didn't notice your approach. Half inclined to blame the onset of the years, but I've no such excuses in this state.
I didn't mean to startle you, Odd. How's the mood been around here? Everything all right?
Her mood and everything is well enough. Our ranks swell with shades moved by the tale that the princess of the underworld has returned, with vengeance on her mind.
Nothing like a bit of sworn vengeance to inspire the masses. Though, what about you?
Everything's shipshape with me, especially after a brief reprieve right here. Be well, Goddess. I once was desperate to hear the siren's song. I barely resisted their temptations. Of course, I was merely mortal. Perhaps you're less susceptible to their allure.
Perhaps. At any rate, I failed to see the appeal. Although, it's possible the sirens were better off without Scylla. She seems rather bossy.
She's a menace. Caught half a dozen of my crew like she'd a separate set of teeth for each of the poor lads. We'd little choice but to pray to the gods and sail on. Tell her hello for me.
Did the gods answer your call, at least?
For the most part.
Odysseus, how about alleviating the rigors of all this tactical planning with a visit to the springs?
I really do appreciate the offer, Goddess. Just... I think your headmistress would rather I stay here. You understand, don't you?
Maybe some other time.
I'm most grateful, Goddess, and expect to knock this back at the Taverna at the soonest opportunity.
No rush, just as long as you enjoy it when that opportunity presents itself.
Come join us, Goddess. I was just regaling the Shades about when first I traveled to the underworld, whilst I yet lived and breathed, if you could believe it. And thusly I got out.
Come on, Odysseus. There was no escape from here when my father ruled. Are these Shades truly so impressionable?
Oh, I'm dead serious. My tales aren't quite as tall as they may seem. But now the gates of hell are flung wide open, aren't they?
We're going to seal them shut.
Aye, that.
If I may be so bold, Goddess, you witches are reliant on your magic when it comes to fighting from afar. You ever think of taking up the bow again? I could give you some pointers.
We don't discuss the bow, Odysseus. I'm still recovering from the last time you gave me some of those pointers about it.
Ah, well, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. A single weakness, in your case, perhaps.
Doesn't count. Have you caught Eris snooping through our plans or anything? Have to be even more discreet with her about.
She stays over in her little corner mostly, Goddess, but I've been keeping my eye on her in case of anything. As long as she undermines our efforts well out of earshot.
We can plan around it, you mean?
Aye.
I was just thinking nothing clears the mind like a refreshing, burning hot soak. Care to accompany me?
Look, I do love a good hot bath, even whilst dead. And I'm not one to say no to goddesses, so... why not? My eyes are properly averted, Goddess. That, I swear.
Would mortals often bathe, Odysseus?
Oh, well, most of them would bathe from time to time, though seldomly together like this. Men with women. It could be untoward.
I see. We gods have no such shame, I realize. Have I made you uncomfortable?
Me? No, Goddess, of course not, no. In fact, I've bathed with goddesses before. It's been a little while.
Well, as long as it's agreeable for you.
It is. Agreeable, it is. Well, don't know about you, but I am properly relaxed, I'd say. You really using that Labrys, Goddess? Double-bladed axe thing. I mean, you no offense, but isn't it a little much? Not even Ajax could have wielded that.
Weren't you the one who taught me to improvise, Odysseus? I'll use whatever means at my disposal. Who is Ajax?
Who is Ajax? Only the biggest lad I've ever met. Who's Ajax? But I forget myself, for he didn't have the strength of Hades flowing through him. Or maybe it's your own. Good hunting. Well, would you look at that? How could I possibly say no? It seems you found my weakness here, Goddess.
The great tactician has no weaknesses, I'm sure. Though he does now have an extra bottle of nectar.
Goddess, I was just thinking of your travels, taking you beneath the surface and above, I reckon to the ends of the earth. No mere journey. Got to be a better word for it.
What is task not sufficiently extravagant? Perhaps assignment? Or voyage? Quest doesn't feel right at all.
No, too upbeat. And voyage is more of a nautical term. We'll think of something.
Trek, sojourn... got these twin lures, Odd, and I can't exactly use them on my own. You know the rules.
Fishing. Oh, my greatest weakness, goddess. The waters and I have never mixed too well. But then, who am I to say no to you? Besides, I'm overdue for a short leave, I think. Let's go.
Used to be I fished out of necessity alone. The earth would oft be stingy with her bounties, whilst the sea would yield plenty to us mortals if we knew where to look.
What's been the biggest difference for you since those times? Not having to eat for sustenance? Not having to watch your mortal body slowly fall apart as you grow older?
Well, you already know a couple of those points if for some reason we were tasked to make a list, but the biggest difference, if I had to choose, is that I finally am free.
You're free? But as a mortal, weren't you a king? A mighty warrior, leader of men, and a husband, and a father. Here you have a place of honor too, except we dwell in shadows. Our deeds are never to be told.
Well, we shall see about that last bit, but for the rest, perhaps I got all of the wanderlust out of my system whilst I lived and breathed. Most of it, anyhow.
Poseidon can't help you here, little fish. Where are they? Catch.
Victory is mine.
I thoroughly enjoyed our outing, though I still thoroughly hate fish.
Well, I'm saying that the possibility exists, yes. Eternal vigilance is near impossible. Enemies have always exploited the lack thereof. I ever tell you of the old wooden horse trick?
The old wooden horse trick, yeah. Surely your reputation as the great tactician hinges on more than this one tale?
Ah, but classics ought to be retold. Though, if you'd rather, I have far more tales of trickery and valor. Take the Cave of the Cyclops.
Not Cave of the Cyclops.
Wanted to say, I appreciate your counsel, Odysseus. You've been like a brother to me. Or an uncle? One of those. You'd know better than I.
Look, you don't have to tell me what it's like not having a family about. I spent a good-sized portion of my mortal days away from home. Had a war to fight. Got a little sidetracked after.
Sidetracked? Headmistress says that you spent many years at sea. Some of them in the company of goddesses at that.
Yes, well, by the time I finally returned, I hardly recognized my son and my wife. We lived out our mortal days together, and that was enough. I reckon they're comfortable somewhere below.
You haven't seen them? What happened?
Penelope and I drifted apart. Happens with mortals sometimes. And it happens with shades, too. As for my son Telemachus, he's his own man. Such is life. Or death, as it turns out.
Yes.
I ought to be the one honoring you, goddess. My inclination is to save this for the moment of our victory, but it's good to have in reserve in case of some emergency, you understand?
I understand indeed. And you already honor me with your friendship, Odysseus, as well as with your knowledge about how to deal swift death. I've seen you here alone more often lately, Odd. You miss Penelope, don't you? And your son, what was his name? Telemachus.
Ah, goddess, you may see through most of us shades, but your empathy for me is a bit misplaced. Penelope, Telemachus, and I... we're cordial with each other still, but... how to say this without sounding callous?
Please speak your mind with me. I'm certain you're not callous.
My mind wanders not to matters of family, but to the siren's blasted song. I scarce got to hear it even once whilst navigating through their waters. I wanted desperately to cast myself into the sea just for a better listen.
The siren's song? You can't expect me to believe that Scylla's incessant drivel is the source of the great tactician's concerns of late.
Now, spare me the ridicule. I'm dead serious about this. You weren't with me on the surface there and wouldn't understand.
Seemingly not. When last we spoke in the taverna, I didn't mean to shame you for your musical tastes. I just had no idea that Scylla could be taken seriously by anybody, much less you.
Think nothing of it. Siren music's an acquired taste. Acquired by all those who sailed in their vicinity whilst I was home. Incessant drivel, though, that's all you think it is?
Well, perhaps I was a bit uncharitable in my assessment. It's just, I have trouble separating my disdain for the performer from the quality of her craft.
It must be very catchy, eh?
Aye.
Oh, I see what you're up to here, Goddess. If you continue to exploit my weakness to this stuff, I may yet learn to turn it to a strength. Good plan.
What can I say? I learned from the best. May you grow stronger and stronger.
So then, were you ever certain you had finally met your doom? Or did you truly think there was always a plan of escape to be discovered, no matter how dire the circumstance?
Well, to be quite frank with you, Moros, may we be informal thus? I had the hardest time untangling myself not from near-fatal situations, but the arms of certain goddesses. My greatest weakness, looking back.
Ah, indeed. But how was this a weakness? As I understand, your wife Penelope stood by your side despite your indiscretions. I trust I do not overstep. I know this can be a sensitive topic with those from the surface.
Penelope stood by my side, because I only told her so much about my indiscretions, as you call them. Then when we reunited after death, I had to tell her the rest. She had spent her best years awaiting an unfaithful man.
I see. After everything you'd been through, did your relationship end in an amicable way at least?
Surprisingly enough, did.
To be direct with you, Master Odysseus, I am what you might call an admirer. At first, I found you extraordinarily frustrating. So adept were you at avoiding certain doom. But gradually, perhaps grudgingly, I grew very impressed.
Oh, I'm flattered and relieved to hear it. Very kind of you to let me know, particularly after all this time.
It's quite humorous, in fact. While you drew breath, I never once had opportunity to tell you.
Quite humorous indeed, my lord. I intended no offense by avoiding you. You know that, of course. A mortal impulse whilst in mortal peril.
Oh, you were a wonder to behold. There were the Lystragonian giants, Charybdis, and, lest we forget, the War of Ilium.
I never do. If you run into anything bad whilst you're out there, you come talk to me about it. Chances are I've seen it, fought it, otherwise gotten past it, and can offer some advice.
Definitely. Hey, I was thinking I'm due for a good boil in the springs. Join me for a bit?
A visit to the baths with you right now? Ha! Sure. I'm honored to accompany you, Goddess. Almost like I'm alive again. I trust the temperature is to your liking, aye?
You've met many goddesses even in your mortal days, haven't you, Odd?
In this, I'm very fortunate indeed. The Lady Athena often watched over me. I'd never have survived the war if not for her. Then, on my travels home, there was Calypso and Circe, a witch not unlike you.
Circe used to study under Headmistress, always with her crystals. And Calypso, she's a nymph, correct? A lesser goddess, I suppose?
Nothing lesser about her, with respect. These goddesses, the hospitality they showed me, why, it almost made me forget myself. Forget my family.
But you did not forget. You made your journey home. Even I know the tale.
It's a tale, goddess. Anyway, life takes its complicated turns. Take it from me. That was a splendid and much-needed time. Truly appreciate the invitation.
The wooden horse was an exquisite trick. Your own inevitable doom misdirected toward your unsuspecting foes. A masterstroke. But my personal favorite had to be the Polyphemus incident.
You speak of it like an old action yarn. Big bastard massacred my crew. My heart threatened to burst from my chest getting past him, and now he's up to his old antics with the goddess there.
Oh, but I have no doubt that with your guidance, the princess shall outsmart the Cyclops again and again, as recompense for the trouble that he caused you.
You know, I journeyed far and wide throughout my mortal days. Met great mortals and even greater gods, but never could I have imagined ending up here, only to receive such a handsome gift from one such as you.
They say life takes strange turns, and so apparently does death, Odysseus. Whatever the fates may have in store, I hope you'll always be nearby to lend your counsel.
Those thorny chaps you've been dealing with. Their numbers grow in each report I get. If you've thoughts on how we could have better prepared you...
I'll share my thoughts when necessary, Odysseus. For the moment, I'm sorting through them still.
Aye, best not to speak without prepared remarks. I understand the feeling only too well. You'll keep me posted, though.
I will. If you're not too caught up in your reports right now, what do you say we put this bottle of ambrosia to its proper use?
I am caught up in my reports, goddess. Focused on what matters most. Meet you at the taverna. We mortals had what we called wine, an acrid sort of drink made of crushed grapes. We'd sometimes say it tasted as good as ambrosia, but it most certainly did not.
You speak of so many hardships from your mortal days and nights, and yet there's always this sense of longing there. You miss those times, don't you?
Such moments and occasions to occur. I know a lot more now than I did then, and sometimes I miss that feeling, knowing less. Or the camaraderie of sailing with my crew.
But many of your crew are with you here now, right? Even the shade of your old dog. How can you miss them if they're still around?
We're shades, goddess, and not all quite as whole as I. Besides, you still can miss your past with those you still know now. Remember when you used to play at hiding with our good witch back when you were very small?
I never thought that we were playing. She was teaching me to hunt for unseen prey. But I do see your point.
Well, my original point was merely that this ambrosia's really something else. Let us ensure it does not go to waste. I'd not realized how much I needed that. It's true what they say, that ambrosia tastes much better in good company.
Of course. You and Commander Skelemius both were great and famous sailors, weren't you, Odd? Did the two of you ever meet in your mortal days?
Oh, great sailor is an understatement, goddess. They say his exploits rivaled even mine. Alas, that I never once had an opportunity to witness his prowess. Oh, it must have been something.
We're fortunate to have you both.
You be wary of the sorts you meet out there, all right? You find a live one gives you any trouble, you know where to hit them where it hurts. Don't mind me, goddess. I'm just busy drafting up some of our latest schemes.
Inquiry for you, Odd. When was the last reported sighting of a root stalker out in the woods?
See, that's the sort of inquiry I'd expect from somebody who sighted a root stalker out in the woods very, very recently. So there's still something rotten in Erebus, then?
Unfortunately, yes.
No telling what the fates may have in store for us, I miss the feeling of the rain sometimes. Then I remember years at sea soaked to the bone, and thank the gods the blasted stuff can't get to me as once it did.
The rain brings life as well as death, especially the latter on this night. The lost souls out there seem to hate it near as much as you.
Aye, almost seems to soften them up, doesn't it? Leave them ripe for the harvest. Go pick some off for me, will you?
I think I will.